That's right. Greetings, fellow armchair Imagineers. Tiki here,
And Blue Dragon 5.
and welcome to our season 4 deep dive of Barry. That's right. It's the Bill Hader magnum opus that nobody's talking about because HBO decided to do the Barry and Succession finales on the same night. Now, folks, I love Succession, and rest assured, we'll talk about Succession on movie memoirs, but Dragon, seriously, I think it's a shame because everybody's talking about Succession today, and I am seeing a distinct lack of Barry love, and we need to change that, sir.
I don't know. I don't know if it's like an algorithm thing or not because I looked into Barry. I think I'm getting Barry news, so I don't know how much of that is like. I'm seeing
Well,
both
I'm
Succession.
seeing like interviews and stuff, but that's about it. But with Succession, I'm seeing like all these think pieces, all these video essays and
I
stuff.
don't know. I've been getting both. I've been getting like half and half because they came out on the same night. I don't know. Maybe it's I don't know if it's just how we're looking things up or not. I don't know.
It's the damn algorithm.
Who knows?
But regardless, yeah, we are definitely here to break down all 8 episodes of Barry season 4. We're not going to talk off the top about exactly what went down in the finale, but Dragon, overall, what were your thoughts on just kind of like the ending, just as a whole, now that everything's all said and done?
Well, whenever we have an ending to a series, which there's been a lot of that going around. This memoirs is going to have a lot of series finales on it, to say the least. I mean, bare minimum 3, because there's a third show, but we don't really talk about that show until memoirs. Regardless, whenever you have like the series finale, there's always that swell of expectation, and in this case, I think it was less expectation, more just like, how the heck are they going to end this thing? Like, where do we go from here? And so you're riveted. You're sucked. You're kind of sucked in. I think like the most recent finale that you and I had was most likely Better Call Saul. In terms of like the recent stuff.
Yes, absolutely.
So yeah. I mean, again, I'm very much glued to the screen and watching it unfold. And there's like a certain moment in that finale where it's like, well, that's our ending. Where do we go from here? And we put a really good button on things.
Yeah, so Dragon, just overall, my reaction to the ending is I'm pretty sure you're talking about that same point in the episode that I'm thinking of. Dragon, when we got to that point, I was like, okay, it's been a fun ride. Like, this has been a great season, but if this is really the way that things are going to go down, I got to say, I'm a little bit on the disappointed side just because I felt like the ending that they were kind of hinting at them going with was almost a little too similar to Better Call Saul in regards to like, okay, well, he's gonna do the thing, he's gonna basically self-sacrifice and atone for his sins and everything, and we've been kind of building that with the religious stuff. And then we get the final Kusanao scene, and I will say no more. We will break that down once we get to it. But let's just say, Dragon, everything that was done with the, like, kind of like how that sort of threw a big wrench into everything about the ending. The overall, like, format of the ending, it felt very Damien Chazelle-like, and I loved it. We'll break it down. And overall, Dragon, just on the final season as a whole, it's kind of funny that we haven't really discussed it, you and I, like just off air, but there's one big element of the season that I'm crazy about, and you know what it is.
Yep.
I love me a good time jump. I love me a good time jump. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Okay, this is... All right. I'm sorry about that. Okay, so yeah, let's just break it down.
No,
let's go ahead. Of course, the episodes, we got the first 2 episodes back to back. So, Dragon, you're gonna have to forgive me because this is overall, I think the episodes are very distinct, but these first 2 do kind of bleed together for me a little bit, just because we got them on the same night. So, episode 1, yikes.
So something I was going to mention, all the kind of the overall stuff I was going to say before he just kind of steamrolled it with like, hey, let's talk about the ending. Let me say this. something to note in the last season here is Bill Hader's always been heavily involved in this series, and he's really been impressing us. And dear God, we got to give this man a feature because this last season he directed all of these episodes, and they all look beautiful, and they're all just perfectly directed. I felt.
Yeah, and not an MCU movie either.
Well, sure, but I mean, I'm sure if Bill Hader did an MCU movie, it would come out really good, like a James Gunn MCU movie.
I would hope so. I would hope so, but I don't trust that to happen.
Okay, my point is, let's give him a movie, all right? Let's give Bill Hader.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
So I just want to get that in there somewhere. Anyway, so
you think he's going to actually make the fake movie?
Nah, I'll do better than the fake movie. By the way, Tiki, should we the banner? Can we?
Oh, you want to? Yeah, I'm sorry. You were kind of speaking a little generally, so let's go on to episode 1.
Right. Yes. So yikes. Yeah, yikes. We have our new status quo of Barry. He's in prison. He's kind of enduring a different sort of fame of celebrity. A different form of celebrity on the inside, which is kind of interesting when you look at the series overall. Again, we really subverted the 5-season thing and going in this with 4 seasons. Like we're very much in the end game now season with 4. That was kind of the mindset going into it because if you look at the grand arc of the series, season 1's Barry making a change. Season 2 is the consequence for that change, the whole Janice Moss affair. Season 3 is all about forgiveness. There's no forgiving Jeff. And then, season 4 is all about closure, and that's kind of where we start things off here.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So one thing about season 4, and I'm one of those people where it's like I actually kind of attested that I honestly think the ending to season 3 could have been the ending to the whole show if they wanted to go that route.
It could have been. It would have kind of left you wanting more, but it would have been an ending.
Like,
well, there you go.
But one of the really fun things about season 4, and one of my favorite elements of it, and of course it's been a running theme throughout the season, but I really think this season plays it up to the 9th degree, is just the Fuchs Barry rivalry and just how back and forth that is and how twisted it is and how, like Fuchs is just such a fascinating character, and I just loved seeing his evolution throughout the season.
I think ultimately what we say about Fuchs this season is that Fuchs, he this season he finally gets to the point. I mean, we kind of saw this in season 3. We were circling as we went full on here, and he kind of acknowledged this a lot, especially when later in the second half of the season when he says a lot of stuff. But Fuchs has self-reflected this season, and he's at the end of this first episode. He has a beautiful scene in which he's patched things up with Barry, at least for the first time out of a couple times. He's going to do that. He patches things up with Barry.
Right. I love how the whole season, literally all the way up until their final confrontation, is just one big game of back and forth. Like, I love you, Barry. I hate you, Barry.
But that's the thing. It's this heartfelt apology, seasons in the making, in which if Fuchs finally getting on board with Barry was the whole reason Barry went with the acting class like he did in the first season. So Fuchs finally gets it, and he went on his own journey getting to that same place, where he admits he used Barry, back. And again, we get into the layers of that in the next episode about like how he met him in the first place and everything. He's been using this kid since day one. And it's been kind of like a journey to self-reflection on like how that was wrong of him to do, and how he does love Barry, and the whole like Barry loving Mr. Kusnow was him finding that was him finding a healthy replacement for Fuchs. So the fact that he lost his
healthy in very big air quotes.
Yeah, so I like that he kind of lost the new father figure, but he regained his original father figure in a sense.
Sure.
Speaking of which, again, that Gene Cousineau is the brutal, like that phone call at the top where he says, like, "I got you, Barry," and then he's like hangs up, click, just that betrayal, which kind of that's a way of summarizing the end of season 3 so perfectly, just that one phone call.
Right.
Yes, so of course, now let's also with Fuchs. Stephen Root, he's so perfect this season.
No, I mean, he literally just encompasses everything from like the most pathetic to just like ultimate hardcore badass. It's crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see. So, of course, in checking the aftermath of things, Sally goes with her family. We get a little backstory. We get a little kind of peek. We don't get like a full explanation. We get a little peek into what screwed Sally up in the first place.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, let's just say she is not the only narcissist in the family.
That's the thing. So I think, but looking at the season now that we have all the pieces, which we can do with these kind of season recap sort of things. Sally, so her mother did a number on her here. She's very cold and kind of chalks things up to Sally being dramatic and everything, which I mean is not totally inaccurate because again we're seeing where the narcissism comes from. So it's there, but it's a lot of it's on her. So we foreshadow Sally becoming a very flawed, cold, distant mother, at least until she has a moment of redemption towards the end. But we kind of see where a lot of that comes from.
Mm-hmm.
And how wonderful is her father, by the way?
Oh, you know what, Dragon? I don't really remember much about him. I'm sorry.
Yeah, her father was like this. I love the actor who plays. I don't recognize him for anything. Just anything before this. It's just the fact that the actor playing her father is so sweet, and you get a sense he counterbalanced the mother so perfectly.
Right? Yeah.
It's like, hey, your mom told us about the show, and he's also he's like comforting her about Barry and everything. He's being like, hey, listen, you can come and work for me. It'll be okay. We'll take care of you. It's like he's really nice.
And then, of course, them actually watching Joplin and realizing what Joplin is actually about.
Yeah, it's about they're essentially in quotes private, really her private business, but the private business they don't like talking about. So again, there's a lot of especially when we get to a lot of the Barry stuff in the second half. That's what I'm saying. I'm sorry, Dave. I'm kind of jumping all over the place here because this season perfectly.
No, you're fine. By all means, it's like I kind of feel like we should be like bookmarking some of this stuff because you're right. It's like especially with the the way that everything goes down in the final episode. I do think this season is very, very well structured, and there's a lot of setup here.
Bill Hader being a student being a student and being a student of Pixar and a lover of the Pixar films, I'm sure the philosophy of we like to use every part of the buffalo.
Well, absolutely, yeah.
That's definitely omnipresent here. So it's the fact that Barry's whole character thing is that he's kind of like in denial and he's burying like the parts of his life he doesn't want to talk about, which is present in the Sally relationship, is still kind of ill present her home life here, as we're seeing the whole like, no, we don't want to talk about your relationship issues, Sally, both past and present. We don't want to talk about it. Okay, let's see. So, one of the big standout moment of yikes, we got to talk about that poor prison guard. I love that prison guard scene.
Yeah, no, it's pretty big for sure.
Love how we directed to again. Bill Hader's visual style is is a chef's kiss, man. Just like when Barry again, he's just that moment of you get a sense he's trying to commit suicide by prison guard.
Right,
He's so down on himself here. He's lost everything. Sally won't take his calls. He's lost Kusanao again. Yeah, he's just at rock bottom right now, and all the self-hatred he feels, he just kind of he insults this poor guard in a way that he doesn't mean, but he just wants to take him off to a point where he's just going to like feel that self-hatred, and basically he hits him in the head and until basically beats the tar out of him. And we go to one of the best symbols in all of Barry, the beach with all the victims. We go to the beach every time the beach shows up. So then, of course, we have the Fuchs Barry reconciliation, which is nice. But let's talk about the real star of Barry, Tiki. Forget Bill Hader.
Dragon, you know what? There's copious amounts of at the beach.
What?
Sand.
Yes, it's coarse. It gets everywhere.
Okay, so I just like with the Hank stuff. I think Hank honestly might have the most airtight, just absolutely perfect arc out of anyone in the show, like top to bottom.
I really want Barry to get all the Emmys this year because of just, oh my goodness, we got to give. There's so many people need to give Emmys here, but we got to give Anthony Carrigan an Emmy this season.
I mean, he runs the gauntlet this season, man. He's like, there's moments where you just like where your heart breaks for him. There's moments where you're terrified of him.
And there are moments where he's wearing a comically oversized sombrero.
Exactly. It's a wonderful character. But with the sand thing, Dragon, I love how it's like the sand goes from like the most mundane possible thing that these two crazy kids could get involved in to just like something that's going to become like the literal trademark of doom for NoHo Hank as a criminal.
No, absolutely. Yeah. Sand is literally the undoing of everything he loves in life. It's just sand. God.
But I love how mundane of a starting point it comes from.
Technically, it's Cristobal's undoing too, because he's the one. Remember, the whole sand venture is Cristobal's idea.
Oh
Again,
yeah,
what
oh
happened?
yeah.
It's a beautifully paid off. What happens to Cristobal in relation to the sand in a very traumatizing bit, which we'll get to. So yeah, they're basically trying to they retired Albuquerque, I believe. They go to Santa Fe, and they're just they're hanging out. And then it's like, hey, sand, let's go legit with the sand con. Essentially we'll sneak in the sand, but then we'll turn to legit business.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's see. I think that we run the gambit of all the. Okay,
I think that's about it.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, let's move on to episode 2.
All right, bestest place on earth. Oh God, the Dave and Buster's stuff in this episode, Dragon.
Okay, we should mention this too before we get too far in this. All the titles are brilliant.
Yeah, I will say I do have my nitpick with this show, though, that I really do hate the fact that they lowercase all the titles. It bothers me.
Well, they've done that since the beginning, though.
I know, and certain musical artists do that with their tracks on albums too, and it just bothers my OCD so much.
I mean, how nice is it that we literally take one line that's from the episode and put it for the title? Like literally every episode this season has like a title. It's
Dragon. You know what other show has been doing that since like literally the beginning of their run?
I'm sure many shows, but what do you got?
Survivor. But no, you're right. It is. I feel like every title of the episode is very very well themed to the to the stuff going on. Ugh, I don't know what I'm saying.
Yeah, so I guess starting with the Dave and Buster's.
We gotta start at the Dave and Buster's stuff, given the title.
So yeah, we're still building the crime utopia in which we are getting feuding gangs together, which did bring a lot of success initially before there was a lot of bullets and bloodshed between the the Bolivians and the Chechens. So yeah, we're doing this again with other warring gangs in the area, and yeah, we bring them all together at the happiest place on earth, Dave and Buster's.
I mean, after my recent Disneyland experience, I don't doubt it. I don't doubt that it's better than Disneyland.
Still, though, I just want to highlight too is the way we direct this scene, and I'm amazed they keep like saying Bill Hader's a great director, but he is. I just love the fact that we have like this. Visually, we're going around the table. We keep spinning around the table. We have a bit where like Hank runs the other side, so we can keep the flow and the choreography of this table spin going.
Mm-hmm.
And also, we have just to get to our other thing here, the flashback structure, and kind of like we kind of set this up in the past as kind of a fantasy sort of thing. I think we mainly introduced it with that beach episode. And we've kind of gone full tilt with it, where Barry is thinking. Later on, we're going to do this with our time jumps. We're kind of foreshadowing the time jumps with Barry thinking to his past, in which we have basically the same landscape we're going to for our time jump.
Yeah, no, that was an interesting structure for sure. Like, and especially like once we do get to the time jump, it really does. Like, until we fully get into episode 5, we don't know what the hell is going on. We don't like it could be a dream. It could be, like I love how it throws you off.
And remember, we've foreshadowed this time jump since the first season.
Oh yeah, for sure.
We had the great moments. I think it was like episode 3 onward where Barry would have these fantasies about his future life with Sally, and now we're eventually going to go there. But we're kind of been building on this, and here we're kind of like looping kind of the flashbacks, and then and we've played with the flashbacks too, like when he's telling the story to Gene Cousineau in I think in season 2, and then Gene's like, we said Henry Winkler in like Afghanistan.
Okay, so speaking of which, I'm sorry, anything else with the NoHo Hank stuff?
I mean, with the we have like Fuchs calling Hank and dropping the bomb on him. The whole like the fact that Barry has betrayed him, so that's really big. Which I love how hurt Hank is by Barry's talking to the FBI. He just sounds like you kicked a puppy in a sombrero. It's brutal. Poor Hank.
But yeah, we got to talk about like maybe Henry Winkler's best moment on the show.
Why don't you tell him about
it? So first of all, I think episode 1 sets up the fact that the reporter's trying to talk to him, right?
Yes, Lon. Well, I think we name dropped Lon O'Neill, and then we may have seen him once. Oh yeah, no. At the very end of the first episode, Lon O'Neill gets a call from Gene Cousineau doing a Batman voice.
Oh God. So Gene Cousineau just goes to this guy, and it's in the old theater, right?
Yeah, I think it's literally in the acting class theater.
Uh-huh.
Place, yeah.
And we just get like this amazing, like his Barry voice is just phenomenal. Hey, I'm Barry Bergman, Mr. Cousineau. I love you, Mr. Cousineau.
God, Bill Hader's got to be eating that up. Just, man, the Fonz just insulted me. This is wonderful.
Oh my God. I mean, it's like, of course, Henry Winkler does have some pretty heavy drama to play this season, but I mean, just from a purely comedic point of view, I think.
I mean, let's not bury the lead too much there. Well, that's great. It's the fact that he went to this whole like scavenger hunt kind of like degree of
right
effort to get Lon O'Neill there. Which, by the way, you recognize Lon O'Neill, didn't you?
I can't say I did.
It's Patrick Fischler. Yeah, he pops up in a bunch of stuff. He was a madman. You saw him briefly in Once Upon a Time, Tiki, but the big thing.
Well, gee, Dragon, excuse me for not.
Well, it's not Tiki. It's like the one season you and I both absolutely saw.
Yeah, I know, but you know that was literally like 10 years ago.
So it meant nothing to you.
In the grand scheme of things, no, not really.
Well, that hurts.
Honestly, no. What I'm saying is like the podcast we did. I think it was a good idea to do a podcast on, because the whole concept of us jumping into that show, not knowing anything about it, like it was a fun conceit, but like no, nothing about the actual show really stuck with me. I've got to be honest with you.
Right, anyway, the point being, if you ever do get to Happy, that show I told you about, which I hope you do, he plays one of the big bad guys in that show, and he's really fun.
All right.
Fischler here, he plays Lon O'Neill, and he's gets told in 3 hours.
Oh my God.
In the form of a one-man show, Gene Cousineau.
You know what else I love about this is that it's also kind of like setting up the literal end of the series.
Yeah, it's literally Gene Cousineau recapping the previous 3 seasons.
Right. It's like the literal end of the show is basically going to be like a comedically, inaccurate recap of the series, and
yeah,
here we go.
For sure. Again, we see like the skewed events that Gene Cousineau's laying out. So again, also aside from the comedy, the drama here in terms of our plot that you just kind of set up there for how we're going to end things, that Barry is going to be very upset by Gene Cousineau skewing and kind of laying out the events like this, which he does not want. So it is a big plot point right now.
Well, I mean, again, it's like I love how even up until this point, there's still some little bizarre sliver of like Gene Cousineau can still be my father figure, my non-biological father.
Yeah,
which has very much been the angle with Barry and Gene Cousineau this whole show.
For sure. Yeah, it's kind of this thing where you see, had Jim Moss not approached Gene Cousineau, you get the sense that he and Barry would have actually patched things up. And the fact that had Jim not done his CIA interrogator thing on Gene, if Jim had not done the CIA interrogator thing on Gene, he wouldn't have had the nerve to betray Barry the way he did.
I can agree to that, yeah.
So that's when you get a sense that Gene really doesn't really hold. I mean, there is that twisted thing where he did threaten his family, so that is there. So it's kind of again, there's a lot of ambiguity in Barry at times with like character motivations and why certain characters do things.
And then let's see, it's not this episode that we get what happens with the reporter with Jim Moss, right? It's the next episode.
Yeah, it's the next one, yeah.
Because we got to talk about that.
Well, we will. So we tell Lon the stuff, and then we're going to get into the consequence of telling Lon the stuff. So, but it's also this too. So, we set up Barry's goal in this episode. So what happens is the first episode, Fuchs went to the FBI and basically offered him a sweet deal wearing a wire and basically get.
I love how it's basically just a game of like who can out-rat the other person.
Yeah, and to be fair, I mean, Fuchs has is going to screw Barry over before majorly with Cousineau and Barry. And here's the thing. This season, I think, gets to the heart of something really important that we've built up for 3 seasons now. There's a big arc with Barry here. I think it's kind of subtle, though, where Barry's loyalty was his undoing majorly in the first season. If you think back to it, remember the whole thing of like Taylor wanted to kill Fuchs, and Fuchs said no, kill Taylor. And had Barry killed Taylor, Leroy Jenkins.
Oh my God, Taylor is like one of the unsung heroes of the show, man. If you remember, he was the person who originally made me kind of like hooked on the show.
And remember, we had Taylor's sister in the last season.
Right.
So it's the thing of so Taylor. Had he killed Taylor, we would not have. He would not have had to kill Chris, and that wouldn't have messed with Barry's head the way it did. And would have. I believe that was the thing. Chris was like his undoing with Moss, so it was like this whole string of events. Like if he, so the loyalty that Barry's shown.
Not to mention killing Chris, just kind of like in general made him more unhinged. It's like for all we knew, the acting class would have actually been the emotional therapy he needed to get over his trauma.
Exactly. So the point being is like all these forms of loyalty that Barry's shown in the past has usually backfired on him in a major way, and of course, with Fuchs and everything. And now, this after everything that's been happening, especially after Kusanao betrayed him, I think Barry's gotten to a point where he's acting selfishly in terms of but kind of in a justifiable way in terms of I've been screwed over so often. I'm doing stuff for my own preservation, but also I'm trying to secure my own happy ending, especially if Kusanao is gonna do me dirty, which he hasn't quite know yet, but it ultimately just hit the betrayal in the first place. So Barry, hearing what Fuchs was going to do to him before they got on good terms, Barry makes a selfish choice. Yes, but it's again, it's a choice that you understand where it's coming from.
Mm-hmm.
Where basically he wants to secure that life that we've hyped up in seasons past with him and Sally. He wants to do a witness protection thing with Sally.
I mean, especially given the visit that he has with Sally, which is like a big part of the episode.
Which we should talk about. So Sally visits Barry.
Which I was actually really surprised that happened so early on.
Me too, yeah. So also, again, of course, she she killed a man. She's kind of getting closure on that, and she killed a man for Barry, and also for her own safety. But she killed a man, and also her killing that man. It's a thing that really messed with her head this season, which we do see visually expressed many a time, like she's on the plane ride and everything. It's a payoff to her powerlessness with the ex-husband who choked her that one time. And of course, she made quite the. I mean, look, it's going to sound really crass, but she did make quite the TV meal on that. She got the whole Joplin show, Oh, God. So we're kind of paying off her, the powerlessness that she's been feeling there. Anyway, so Barry has a genuinely heartfelt apology, and he's saying like he's not like trying to manipulate her at all here. It's just he's going for broke.
Mm-hmm.
And again, the fact that Barry and Sally, and you and I were on the money with this the whole time. Sally did have things where we did not deify Sally. Sally was flawed. Sally was like, an LA actress in terms of there is an ego at play there, and there is a selfishness, and that is kind of what she and Barry are having in common right now.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the show really did pull no punches with that. As a matter of fact, I'm kind of surprised, like, just how good Sally looks by the end of the show, especially considering, like the first couple episodes of the, of the fast forward of the, the time jump. It's her in like full on bad mother mode. So
yeah,
she really does go through an arc.
Anyway, so point being, Barry, he's cutting a deal with the feds. Fuchs finds out. He's very hurt, and he tells NoHo Hank. Yeah.
All right, episode 3. You're charming.
Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. One last thing, so I don't forget about it, because this is important for our last episode and everything. Barry has that flashback in the previous episode where he saw he and Sally at their son's wedding in the future, and that the whole like them like in old age, like dancing at their son's wedding and everything. So basically, Barry is imagining a Damien Chazelle style ending for himself. He's imagining the La La Land ending.
Essentially, yeah.
To a degree, not.
And I still think the actual ending of the show is Damien Chazelle like in its own way.
No, that's what I'm saying. To there's credence to. I'm saying we're going one Chazelle direction and to another. But it's just the fact that again, Barry is picturing like an old school Hollywood ending, which him going for an old school, like an ending like the movies, is going to seal his fate because, like the ending of some movies, there is a specific thing that comes at the end of those movies, and that's going to be his fate.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, yes. Sorry. So, so you're charming. So let's talk about someone who's really charming. Let's talk about Guillermo del Toro.
Oh my god! Yeah, I was so excited for this cameo.
I love this scene so much.
I mean, he looks so good, man.
He does. He looks good. His name's El Toro.
Well, no, his name's just Toro.
Well, no, well, yes, but when they introduce him, it's like El Toro. But yes, it's
Okay,
Toro.
okay.
His name's Toro, and he lives in. He's wearing this nice suit. He's got a hat on. He's got like a cool little scar. He's got a cane. He looks cool. So I love. We kind of hype him up, and like Barry, we kind of de-escalate to a degree. Like we subvert things. Where we have this thing where he shows up like this guy knows what he's doing. He says, "I've put my two best guys on this, Nestor and Flores."
Okay, when he said Nestor, did you think for a hot second we were going to get a Nestor Carbonell cameo?
No, I've been too weird. To be fair, though, I did not expect in a million years Guillermo del Toro would pop up. So you never know.
I mean, yeah. Like, honestly, Dragon, it's like, I'm sure we'll talk about it, but penultimate episode, there is a very, very prominent retired actor that is teased. And
Yeah.
I thought there was a more than 0% chance that that actor was actually going to pop up.
All right. So we have like the idea that we have two, I believe, two Spanish hitmen, two Hispanic hitmen who have a podcast.
Just the conversation about the podcasting this season is just so great.
That's what I'm saying. I love like the whole Los Amigos gadget, which I love the idea of this show. The idea of these two Hispanic hitmen who that's their side hustle. And again, in a sense, that just explode view the series here. Again, these guys kind of have achieved what Barry's going for. You know, they can be hitmen and they can have a little side hustle that's kind of fame related. You know,
Exactly.
so yeah, they do a thing where they talk about gadgets and they talk about them and everything, and usually the gadgets never work. And we have like the jacket that cooks s'mores in it, which Del Toro has apparently. He says it works fine. It was just says like, there's a flaw of the podcast where you have to, you can't really see anything when they're talking about the gadget. Like, there's links to YouTube videos.
There's links.
Oh, it's great. It's great. Okay, let's see. So also the Shadow Map, because he does pay off hugely. Well, he pays off in a really big moment in the last episode. Fred Melamed, Gene Cousineau's agent, Tom, he returns and he's great.
I just gotta say, like, yeah, he is. He was like one of the kind of dark horse favorite characters this season. I really loved every interaction with him and Gene. I really thought he brought a lot to the show.
In general, Fred Melamed is just a really talented actor. Every time he pops up, it's like, hey, it's him. Okay, let's see. So, we have Bruckner explain it. Bruckner's like the guy in charge of the FBI investigation. He's basically he's bluntly saying, well, Gene Barry's cut a deal, which means he's most likely going to get out and you're screwed. Very, very. I love how matter of fact he is saying, like, well, if they're ex-military, they're probably going to find you. Barry's ex-military. Oh, well.
Right.
Here's the thing. There's a satirical nature to a lot of Barry and what we're doing here, and you have to wonder how much of this is like, when the way we portray law enforcement in the FBI and Barry, like, do you think it's like just scarily accurate, or do you?
Well, I mean, I feel like it's kind of the same principle where it's like when you look at something like the way that Sally's show is immediately canceled. It's like, it doesn't like that doesn't happen per se with streaming shows, but it's almost getting to that point, right? Like there's a shred of truth to that.
Yeah. So let's see. So Barry is visited by Lon O'Neill. Lon tells him about the whole Gene Cousineau thing, tries to get his side here, and he's confronting Barry about the stuff that he's done to Gene and everything. And Barry's very upset by this because one, Gene betrayed him, but now he's threatening his deal and everything to get his happy ending with Sally. And I just love how the explosive rage that's coming out of Bill Hader here, who's like slamming that phone down, and he's yelling so much, so loudly, you don't even need the phone to hear him.
Right.
God, it's great. So Sally, she was advised by Gene last episode to teach. So let's talk about Sally, the acting teacher.
Yeah, I love the way this scene goes down. Of course, it does foreshadow her eventual outcome, which is great. And I love how we don't necessarily know if she's a good. I want to assume she's a good acting teacher by the time the show ends. I
She
want
could
to
be
just
a worst case. She could just be okay.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But it's like I love how she is very narcissistic and going about it in all the wrong ways. I think this is just like a glorious kind of I feel like this scene is almost like a great kind of like it's calling out the hypocrisy of cancel culture, but also sort of shining a light on why some people do need to be called out.
Yeah.
What I mean by that is like, it's like the hypocrisy of people are like, oh, I can't tell you how many times me and my sister have gotten into fights like that, only to, when you see it firsthand, to turn your back. It's like basically practice what you preach is sort of, I don't know. I really like what the show was going with in this moment.
Yeah, and the fact that she's kind of inflicting the acting trauma that she thought was getting her far with the Gene Cousineau method, and she's kind of inflicting on them. And there, it's as you said, it's the cancel culture thing. Of like, hey, that's not cool, man. That's it's almost like a generational separation, but the generation isn't really passed yet.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's talk about Batir laying down the bad news. And Batir, played by the wonderful and returning J.B. Blanc. It's Dr. Goodman we have an Albuquerque verse alumni.
Right.
The other Goodman from from Better Call Saul. I wish it's a shame they never brought that up in that show. By the way,
That's true.
anyway, so yes, Batir he lays out the stakes for Hank that the Chechens, they will never allow this whole crime utopia thing. They're not going to sign off on it.
And Hank's just he's kind of brushing it off at first, or trying to at least.
Yeah, he's trying to, and it's not going to go well. So then we have, but here's the this we have tension on the Hank character. So now he could really use some good news. And then we have the big scene. So Hank has ordered a hit on Barry this episode. Now, like, there's some tension in the episode. You see Barry like alone in the yard, and I thought we are gonna have I think it's a misdirect intentionally. You think Barry's gonna be attacked in the yard. Now, of course, by the end of this episode, we do it entirely differently in an awesome way. So Barry gets a call. Barry calls Hank, and he's trying to get Hank to kill Gene Cousineau, and he's basically pulling on the old familiar heartstrings, Hank. And Hank's not having it. And basically, here's the thing: we've set up that Hank has liked Barry since the beginning. He thought he befriended Barry, and he didn't kill him at the end of the first season and everything. There was a thing where so many opportunities where Hank could have died in Barry, and he hasn't, thank goodness.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so Barry has abused this friendship with Hank, and he's lying to him right now, saying like, no, I haven't gone to the FBI and everything. So he's really hurt by this, and it's a really compelling scene. It's the performance by both of these actors is riveting too.
This is basically the final time that these two interact at all, right?
That's true, yes. So
I really do think, and it's early on in the season, but I think it does play well as like a kind of like a finale for their arc.
And compared to where they started and to where they're ending here, it's like that too. Like, it's just very casual, mundane conversation to the whole like "f you, man." We the audience, obviously we love Barry, but Barry, Hank is we love Hank as well, and Hank is calling Barry out, kind of calling the series out. I'm like, hey, Barry's not a saint, kids. He's been a killer from the start. We've gone along with him up to this point, but Barry is. He's turning on people. He's making he's sacrificing people for his own wants right now. He's no saint.
And Hank has always had that thing where it's like he's in both parts the most dangerous and established criminal in the show, but also the character with the best moral compass.
Yeah. So again, just the just again, Hank's. Sorry, just again, it's the hurt on Hank right now, and you get a part of me gets the sense in the scene that had this conversation gone better, had Barry gone for broke, I don't know, I think Hank might have been able to get swayed. Because remember, In the first episode, Hank finds out Barry was in prison, so that's why he signs off on let's do the sand thing so we can go back to L.A. and break Barry out. So I think that's a testament to the friendship because remember Barry helped him save Cristobal's life last season. There's a big debt of gratitude towards Barry, and he wanted to save him. So yeah, I think there's there's maybe a little bit of an inkling there. Like there was that friendship, and Hank was really needed a friend right now. He really needed some backup. Maybe his only chance of saving Cristobal and everything that's about to happen would have been Barry in his corner, but it just wasn't in the cards.
Yeah. And then so of course the big assassination is just
Well, you want to talk about Lon O'Neill, Jim Mawson when he did
yeah, I can, but shit. Okay, I'm good. I'm sorry. Yeah, so I mean, I think Jim Moss is like probably the most intimidating character in the whole show, just based on this one act alone.
The fact that it's done entirely off screen is even better. It's the fact that okay, so Lon O'Neill is finally found after they were trying to they basically tossed this computer into the pool. The home computer too. What I think it was just the monitor. It wasn't even the computer.
Right. Which, by the way, that is entirely inaccurate. You want to destroy the hard drive, not the monitor.
Yeah, well, tell people how to commit crimes, Tiki. Anyway, so he's gone missing. We learned that Jim Moss got his hands on Lon O'Neill, and basically Lon returned home, and he's been silent for like 2 hours. Hasn't said a word despite trying to, and when he finally speaks, he speaks, I think, German, and he never knew how to speak German.
Oh my god.
Like no watch, no identification or anything. He just looks like he's not beaten up. He's been like thrown into trunks and stuff.
He's essentially a vegetable, but a German vegetable.
Yeah. Okay, so Fuchs, Fuchs learns from Hank that it's all going to be taken care of, and he'll be rewarded. And we're going to pay this off later in the season. That he's going to be rewarded for his loyalty to Hank. And Fuchs watches a movie in prison.
Oh God!
That hits him in the feels. What?
That's us.
Yep, that's us. He's watching Rain Man.
Oh my God!
Oh gee, I wonder who he sees Barry. Anyway, so also we should mention this too. Like Fuchs, we have like an arc with him kind of winning over the prisoners. So initially, like he has this hysterical scene in episode 2 where he's like laying out like, "I'm gonna give you all nicknames. You're gonna be Groove Tube. You're gonna." No, you're not gonna be Jason. This guy's gonna be Jason.
And I love how it's like everything is like. When that's going on, it's like we're thinking there is like Fuchs is going to be eaten alive. There's no way he's even going to be able to survive prison, let alone thrive in prison.
Especially without Barry there. That's the thing. Barry was his big ace up his sleeve, and now that's gone.
Uh-huh.
Now they're calling it Big Bird instead of the Raven. Okay, so point being, despite Fuchs's warnings, which is going to give him a lot of beatings, we have the big scene where Barry he's doing the witness. He's about to do the witness protection thing. He's told the FBI everything. They have him in special housing, and we have this amazing hit gone wrong sequence.
Just the suspense where it's like Barry just immediately knows that there's something up with that guy.
I meant to look.
It's like I love how Barry is actually ahead of the audience in this moment.
I feel really bad because I meant to look this up because the guy looks identical to this actor. I'm going to feel really stupid if it's not him, but I'm just going to go for it. The failed killer, who is either Nestor or Flores, I'm pretty sure that's Fred Armisen.
Oh my! Yeah, I heard it is. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, thank goodness. Okay, So that's the thing. So Fred Armisen, of course, it's Bill Hader worked in a few of his SNL buddies in there. So so of course Fred Armisen. Anyway, so we just have this very nervous looking guy. I love the way Armisen plays this, and Barry can just I love everything about this. He's so perfectly directed. Where Barry's just in there and he's hearing the safety spiel, and he sees this nervous guy and he kind of susses him out and he says, "That guy's here to kill me." In that monotone Barry way, that guy's here to kill me. And he looks nervous, and Barry's like putting two and two together, looking like where he's looking, seeing there's a guy in the ceiling. He tries using like a pen gun, it blows up in his hand, which is horrifying for me.
Yeah, no, for real.
But anyways, so
It's very realistic blood in that moment.
So I used to love this, like, Barry's, like, he's blocking the bullets, and he's, like, firing the gun there. I love he's, like, looking back and forth a couple times, like, did I just see what I thought I saw? Yeah, and then we have a character actor in this. We celebrate the character actors in there. We have Richard Reichel, the guy who's he plays the warden. This guy he's usually, it's so weird, Tiki. It's been so many years since I've seen this guy. He's so known for his trademark mustache, and he was in the Albuquerque Verse for an episode, I think.
Really? Wait,
yeah,
was he's not the guy from the Howard Hamlin stunt, right?
No, not that. That's not
that mustache.
No, different mustache. Different Breaking Bad mustache, Tiki.
Okay.
He was I think he was I'm pretty sure he was an open house. Remember an open house, Marie was like chatting with the guy with the mustache?
Ah, yes. How can I forget?
So that mustache
that was just like the best scene in all of Breaking Bad.
No, I know, but seriously, that guy, he's famous for never shaving his mustache.
Okay, that's funny.
So that's the thing. So the fact, like, now that was then, this is now. Now he still has not shaved the mustache, but now he's a full beard. So for a moment, it's kind of unrecognizable. I did a double take. Like, wait, is that him? Where's the mustache is gone? Where the heck is Berkman? Okay, that brings the next one.
All right, episode 4. It Takes a Psycho. So, really interesting thing about the format of this episode, we basically see everyone but Barry for a large amount of it.
Yeah, we don't get Barry until the very end.
Mm-hmm.
So Fuchs is being tortured and interrogated really lousily in prison too. Like, what is he tried telling you Barry was going to get killed. He's not really in on anything, guys. They beat the tar out of him, and he earns the respect of the prisoners in taking this beating.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it traumatizes him and makes him learn about himself, which we get into in the future. So let's see. We go full circle. Gene is at the cabin, and boy, oh boy, that Gene.
This is horrifying, man.
Yeah, the fact that he's held up at the place where Janice Moss died,
and then I thought for sure his son was dead. Didn't you?
I mean, it was. I wondered if we were going to go that far, but by the same token, though, it was a shoulder shot, and it's, I don't know, I know in real life, people would actually die from that sort of thing, but and usually it's got the TV rule of like shoulder shots, usually like Hank was shot in the shoulder in the first episode, he survived, so.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, but no, seriously, the fact that the Coral Tree Cafe gesture of just goosing out this Coral Tree Cafe. And that's this. I love that instead of Chekhov's gun, we have Rip Torn's gun.
Right. Yeah, very much so. That
gun gets paid off a lot this season. We tipped it off ever since the first.
I mean, it is the ultimate Chekhov's gun, I think, as far as just like they really do just establish it, and it's literally the last title of the last episode is all about that gun.
And remember, that gun, we've hyped the importance of that gun up ever since the first season because it's the gun that ruined Gene Cousineau's career. Remember, gun essentially blacklisted. He brought that gun to the Full House audition.
Yeah, so great payoff there. I'm sure we'll talk about it more.
Sure. Okay, so big thing. So we have the crime utopia, which meets a tragic end. Initially, we're doing kind of almost that Better Call Saul thing, which I mean we kind of seen a little bit in like the early seasons of Barry. We treat we have like these nice kind of stash houses and everything, like chairs and everything in it, but it's kind of like the Gustavo Fring treated the Germans. We have karaoke, we have casinos, we have like fancy chairs, we have like girls and drinks and everything. It's a paradise, and then Hank invites everyone to check out the sand.
God. Yeah, this is just this might be like one of the closest things the show's ever done to a full-on horror movie sequence.
Yeah, I mean it's like horror movie, not in a graphic way, but by implication.
It feels like something out of Jordan Peele, honestly.
There you go. That's a good. Yeah, there's your comparison. Yeah. So Hank betrays Cristobal in a really terrible way here, where he did not mean to get Cristobal involved in this, which makes it even sadder. So Cristobal's the guy who came up with this whole sand bench. He's like, "Oh yes, let's see the sand," and they all go there to the sand. And like Hank says, "Oh, Cristobal, come with me. I need to go in the other room to get something." He says, "Okay," and then he says, "Oh, Cristobal, wait, check out this video." He's like, "Oh, okay." I love that eager, like, "Oh,
oh God."
That's what I'm saying. This seems like such an innocuous sort of
Right,
scene.
right.
And I love the misdirect too. Think about the misdirect where Hank learns that Barry has escaped, so he seems nervous about that, but he's actually nervous about this betrayal that's about to happen.
Uh-huh.
So Cristobal goes back and checks out the video, and they all initially I'm thinking it was just it was like a horrible accident in which we're going to kill off these characters. Like, oh god, these idiots had this giant silo of sand. They walked through the giant silo.
Right.
I mean, I imagine this was going to happen, but not on purpose. I didn't expect the whirling and everything. So they went there, and it's quicksand essentially. And Cristobal is like panicking. It's so sad. Him calling for Hank. And I'm saying, oh, this poor Hank character. He's gonna be a victim of this tragedy, which it was quite the opposite. So Cristobal falls in the quicksand. You hear him yelling through muffled sound like Hank. And we
it's pretty rough.
The POV thing is genius too. Like we're in the darkness and we're hearing the Hank, and then we just have like.
Did you ever see Nope?
Yeah.
Okay, so the POV thing, it very much reminds me of the moment like right after the the whole arena gets swallowed up.
Yeah.
All right. Anyway,
so we have a POV thing where Hank is in like he's spritzing all this water on him so he can get it out of his eyes and his lungs and everything, and then we have the reveal that this was Hank and the Chechnyans doing this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then it leads to like the big rift between these two by the end, where first of all is just very betrayed by this, but it was the only way the two of them could get out of this alive, and we have that horrible, sad ending where Cristobal wants to leave. He wants to leave Hank, but the understanding is that it's so long. By Michael Ironside playing the leader of the Chechnyans, by the way, which is cool casting. I love Michael Ironside. Dark Side himself, the real Dark Side.
He actually just popped up in something I saw this month.
Well, he was in Nobody recently, so
he was in Blackberry.
Oh, there you go.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so Ironside saying, so long as you're Hank's family, you're our family. So that's in Cristobal. As long as he sticks with Hank, he lives. So he's walking out on him. I love the desperation of Hank trying to explain to him, no, listen, Cristobal, you cannot leave me.
Yeah.
And it's just horrible. It's just seeing like, oh god, this poor Hank, and the way Anthony Kerrigan plays that loss, just knowing what's about to happen. And I like the fake out too. We have a guy walk in looking from a distance like he's Cristobal walking back in. But it's a guy dressed just similarly to Cristobal saying, oh, I'm sorry, and we see the dead body outside. So it's horrible.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's see. So I guess okay. So we kind of we do some commentary on the industry here. We lampoon the superhero movies with the Mega Girls.
Oh yeah, oh god. It's kind of like I kind of feel like Sally almost dodged a bullet here.
I mean, kind of. I think it's more
like very, very retroactively once you see what her actual end point is. I feel like the actual ending point, she has to go through a lot of shit to get to that actual ending point. But I feel like if she would have just taken a role in a superhero franchise with her narcissism, Dragon, it would have not ended well.
No, it wouldn't have. It's the fact that like she's trying to steal the role of like of her young protege, which shows like that selfishness.
Which is just super shitty, man.
It is, and then you have like the kind of the dark reality of Hollywood, where it's like if you were only taller, beautiful, if you were only taller and slightly more young, you would get this role, which is like, oh man, this is because she knows all the lines, she has the performance. Then she basically said, well, hey, look, if you stick around like you do as an acting coach, we'll give you a couple thankless roles and maybe it'll pay off for you. And then that was her thing of like, I'm going to go with Barry over Hollywood.
Right. Yeah. And so, I mean, I was surprised, but not entirely shocked at the ending to the episode.
So here's a question. When you got to the ending episode, did you think it was ending on like a Barry like flat like a Barry?
Well, of course, by the ending of I mean like when she says like like let's go. That's what I mean by like I was surprised but not necessarily shocked. But then yes, the actual flash forward, Dragon, all the way up until like I don't know, like about 10 minutes into the next episode. I was convinced that it was a dream sequence.
That's the thing. I was wondering that myself as well. Not for 10 minutes, but like once the episode, okay, we're committing. Like after 2 scenes, it was like, okay, we're in this. This is
right. Yeah.
There's no way we could, it'd be crazy. That brings us to 5.
All right, episode 5. This might be my personal favorite of the season, actually, believe it or not.
So, just to acknowledge the half and half breakdown of our 8 episodes of Barry here. So again, the first 4 episodes, again, it's kind of we pull kind of a Breaking Bad here. We're kind of like we've gone the full time jump with these next 4 episodes. We're
Little Better Call Saul as well.
I mean, for sure. I mean, especially with the Gene stuff. Yeah, different Gene. But imagine that though.
I mean, that the show does go to Albuquerque.
I mean, we had Carol Burnett in there. I mean, let's get the
Oh,
Fonz
God.
in there.
All right, so Tricky Legacies, I genuinely really, I mean, I love all the episodes, but I think this episode is just like so high caliber for me.
What do you like most about it?
The Abraham Lincoln stuff in particular.
Right?
I love the way that that's written.
I love how the whole Tricky Legacies thing leads to like Barry getting a little. Barry's getting defensive about his own legacy, and basically the idea is that we kind of throughout the episode we build on Barry. You see Barry initially as a loving father and everything. Barry seemingly is a good parent and he's doing right by his family under the circumstances. But as it goes on, we kind of reveal like as Hank's words coming true here. Where Barry is kind of narcissistic here. He is controlling his family. Like his son expresses an interest in baseball, and then we do the sick and twisted thing where Barry's showing him all these baseball related deaths.
Oh my God, dude. Seriously. I mean, it's like Barry in full-on dad mode is like, he is a genuinely changed person, and you can see that. Like, a lot of the rage from the past has kind of subsided, but he's still pretty fucked up with the baseball stuff.
Yeah. Also, this is speaking of that. We mentioned this. We kind of glazed over, but given we're paying it off all in this episode, we should mention. I love seeing how Fuchs met Barry and seeing that Fuchs is actually really good with kids, except that demonic karate girl who was like biting his face and everything. But aside from that kid, Fuchs is good with kids. And the way
one
he
of the
interacts.
theories about the finale was that John was going to go into full on Ronnie and Lily mode and like destroy the Chechens, and I'm really glad that didn't happen.
Well, Chechens already got destroyed, isn't it? Destroy, yeah.
Well, I'm sorry. When I say the Chechens, I mean just like Hank's men.
Yeah, well, I'm saying they all died though. The other way.
Okay, well, Hank, whoever's keeping them prisoner at the end of the episode. I'm sorry, semantics.
Anyway,
he's got guys with him, Dragon. I don't know what to call him.
Oh no, I misunderstood you. I thought you meant like after that went down, but you meant before that. Had basically, if as a kid he did all that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah,
I thought you meant like in the future when he was older. When that happened.
No, I'm saying like one of the theories about how the finale was going to go down was that's how Sally and him got out of the situation.
I understand. No, that's actually that's an interesting theory for sure. Yeah, but I don't think Barry would ever train his kid to do all that. But yeah.
I am really glad it didn't go that direction. I actually think Ronnie and Lily is a little bit overrated as an episode, believe it or not.
I mean, again, I love the direction of particularly the fight.
The direction is great, but I feel like there's so many other episodes that have more interesting character dynamics, and at the end of the day, this is a character show.
Well again, the problem with Ronnie and Lily is it's a great episode structurally and like how we're filming it. The problem is that for me, as always, we stretch the realm of believability in Barry with that little girl.
Yeah, I agree.
That was always my issue. Where I mean, yes, it's hysterical, but it's like it breaks the reality of the show.
Dragon, so many people think of that episode as like definitively like the best episode of Barry, and I'm just not on board with that.
It is a standout, just for like, especially when it premiered. It was obviously a standout, but we've kind of surpassed it by now. So
All right. Anyways. So Tricky Legacies, one of the things, I feel like an episode like this is almost like the diametric polar opposite of an episode like Ronnie and Lily. Because it's all about just the small exchanges and subtle details. I think the way that they write Sally is just like a mother who is like so disengaged and so checked out that you can barely even call her a mother at this point. Is just like the performance is just haunting. I don't know, just that stuff mixed with Bill Hader's kind of can-do, like, I read today about Honest Abe and like our good buddy Abe, Like, just I don't know. I just love how checked out Sally is compared to how all in on the Abe Lincoln stuff Barry is.
Yeah, and the reason he's following like Abe Lincoln and all this sort of stuff because again it's Barry kind of projecting his issues onto the historical figures and the homeschooling he's doing for the kid right now, where it's basically Tricky Legacies is primarily Barry unable to face the bad stuff he's done. He's writing his own ticket. He's writing his own. He's basically rationalizing his choices by these other historical figures have done shady things, and yet we still deify them to a degree. Like Lincoln's on the penny, and apparently there was one point in time where Lincoln did contemplate that. We don't know how aggressively he laid this out. I'm sure the historians could probably speak to it, but Lincoln tried to send the black people back to Africa despite all the things he did in
Right,
fighting slavery. So you got to imagine like a mundane thing of like Lincoln saying, "So, guys, look, guys, there's a lot of problems here. Let's just get you back home, right?"
That sounds like a Family Guy gag waiting to happen.
It does. It's sadly past its prime. This though is twisted. The Gandhi thing is twisted. The idea that Gandhi was like fighting like no, we can't.
Well, Gandhi is a very well documented thing at this point.
Yeah, Gandhi's the whole the hypocritical nature of Gandhi.
But Dragon, you can watch Gandhi on VHS. All of Gandhi is here.
Okay. Anyway.
All right. I'm sorry.
Okay,
I love that obscure Siskel and Ebert reference. Go ahead.
Okay, so the fact is, Barry himself leads a tricky legacy. And that's kind of what's in parallel here. And the thing about this, it's kind of a unifying thing with all of our characters here, with Fuchs, with Barry, and especially with Hank. The fact that we're unable to face the choices that we made, and we are in kind of like a state of denial for a while there, and we're trying to rewrite how things are going now in the present.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it's Barry's whole starting now philosophy that we've
oh yeah, very much so.
Yeah. So let's see. So Sally's given up, and this is really Sally's phase rather tragic, at least up to this point in our story. She's given up her passions. Like she's watching the sitcom that kind of beat hers out. The show that beat hers out,
which just looks like the most vapid shit, man.
Now remember, it's the same girl that she screamed the C word.
Yeah, Natalie. Yeah,
Natalie. So I believe we saw her read we saw the script of this scene, so we're actually seeing it all filmed and presented and everything, but the black licorice thing. So the fact that she's she's a shell of her former self. She's become her mother to a degree, and yeah, she's a drunkard and just kind of a distant mother.
And she is literally just like barely even floating through life. Like she is barely keeping it together.
And again, it's the fact that they are in hiding and everything, and again because he couldn't get the full-on witness protection, it's like Barry's so close to everything he wanted, but there is still
so far.
There's still something really off of what's going. Like the kid, he won't let the kid play Call of Duty because if I'm right, Call of Duty got to sign up online and stuff. So the point being, it would be a way to get caught. You don't want to do that.
I mean, I was kind of more thinking that might be a big part of it. Like, I'm sure that is part of it.
Well, I mean, let me this way too. I know you think you're saying. Yes, I'm saying that's the practical reason, but the emotional reason is again with the whole he doesn't want to propel violence.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, so you're right. I mean, also, broad, this is going to be important. The fact that Barry is overcorrecting in his redemption here. He's seeking forgiveness for his sins through religion, so he's becoming very nonviolent, at least on the surface, to his son and everything. But when the chips are down, he's going for that gun. He has to work that gun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, so Sally, she chokes out that guy too. She chokes out a potential abuser there. She's again just kind of trying to get some demons out. Again, Barry's recontextualizing his wartime trauma to his son, and then we got to talk about old man Kusanau.
Yes.
Or I guess older man Kusanau, but So yeah, Kusanau with this big old bushy beard, and he's got a big old neck beard, and he's got this long hair, and he's going to the Warner Brothers.
Mm-hmm.
They're making a Barry Burke. This is such a great meta idea. They're making a Barry Berkman movie, and he's trying.
And then literally the rest of the show is just going to kind of revolve around this movie, and that's great.
And I love that we're taking pot shots at Warner Brothers, which is what HBO's in conjunction with right now. I love that. Okay, that brings us to 6.
All right, episode 6, The Wizard.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Barry's trying to kill Gene. Now, here's the question. I think mainly it's out of selfishness, just because the whole, like, he doesn't want his son to judge him harshly based
Oh,
on
I
the
very
body.
much think
Yeah.
it's all that. Yeah, I think there's very little actual like self-preservation. I think it's all about
Because
just
Sally calls out, like, "What are you gonna do? Kill everyone who sees the movie?" Like, no,
right,
just
exactly. Yeah.
yeah, because Barry's fear is just like, ultimately at his core, and we've set this up for a long time. Barry's fear predominantly is facing the consequence of his choices, like facing the reality of the choices that he's made.
Mhm.
And this movie would be again skewed the way Gene Cousineau was telling that story would absolutely be his worst nightmare. So we get future Fuchs.
This was just amazing. Just amazing.
So Fuchs, he's, I guess the best way to describe him here is
He's everything that he hyped himself up to be as the Raven all these seasons. It's all of that personified.
he's tatted up, so like this, his body tells the story of his life. There's like a big old raven like in the center of his, like, his kind of clavicle, I guess. He's like skulls and stuff. He's like black nails. And he's got the beard. He's wearing the wife beater. And the thing is, he's philosophizing like Thanos, which I find really funny. That's the thing. He's philosophizing like Infinity War Thanos.
And then just the 2-episode arc that happens with this random woman that he woos.
That's the thing. Like, this is I forget if he's married or if this is his girlfriend who has kind of like an adoptive stepdaughter with.
That is honestly some of the best comedy in the whole series. Just
It's great.
like everything about that. Every time that those specific characters are on screen, I just can't. I can't even handle it.
So let's see. So he wants Barry, and again, here's a question for you, Tiki. Do you think he wants Barry to kill him, or has he philosophized to the point where he does not actually wish Barry harm, like we kind of ultimately end up on things?
I honestly think at this point he is just kind of like, yeah, out for the revenge, but he doesn't really know what he wants.
Okay, so you think he wants Barry, he doesn't know exactly what he's going to do yet. He just wants him.
Right, exactly.
Basically, that's why he's
Yeah.
not telling Hank to kill Barry. He's just saying, "I want Barry."
Uh-huh.
Okay. Speaking of Barry, Barry here again, he's kind of with the whole Tricky Legacies thing. He's trying to self-justify what he's
Oh my
doing here,
God.
and that he can get away with. He's trying to find some loophole in religion that says he can kill someone. So he's on the radio and he's flipping through stations and everything, and he ends up on Pastor Nick Saint Angelo. Now, Pastor Nick Saint Angelo is voiced by the incomparable Bill Burr.
This show's had a lot of awesome cameos, including, Guillermo del Toro from just this season. But like, whereas Guillermo del Toro essentially just showed up to cosplay as himself as a pimp. This is just, I love this cameo so much because it encapsulates everything that we know about Bill Burr's persona, but it weaves itself perfectly into the actual fabric of the show and Barry's arc and where he is.
Absolutely, and I love that the idea is he's this ex-hockey player who killed someone in the ring, and he ended up in prison for 10 years, and he essentially got out. I guess he found religion, he got certified, so he became a pastor. He's basically, yeah, killing's fine, I do it again. Killing's in the Bible.
I guess we know what happened to him in Better Call Saul.
Yeah.
QB found religion. There you go.
QB found religion. Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, he says, well, killing's in the Bible. It's fine. It's kind of a classic Bill Burr rant of sorts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So also we have a bit of satire, a little PSA, and I guess, Tiki, are we still able to get guns this easily in the world? Are we still able to go?
No, probably not this easily, but it's.
Well, we are in LA right now, so you're geographically you're closest here. Can you just go to a place and buy guns? Something.
Well, to be fair, I am still a 10-hour drive from LA. So
well, that's what I'm saying. I guess based on hearsay and any visits, have you?
Well, I don't know, Dragon. The last
I know,
time
obviously, there's gonna be more. There's gonna be more scrutiny, but can you actually go into a place like it was in the '90s and go into a Walmart or a Kmart more specifically?
I don't think so. I honestly don't think so.
Okay.
But I do think that this is just a very sharp kind of satirical take on just how gun crazy our culture is in the wake of all the fucking mass shootings.
I love the gag. It's a dark gag, but appropriate for our show. It's like, legally, I'm supposed to show you these pictures of gun violence, and I love how Bill Hader's plays. Oh yeah, sure, yeah. And he looks at him like, okay.
God,
That's funny. All right, let's see. So then we have, okay, I got to admit, so there is one sequence in the entire season that I still scratch my head at, and I mean, I think I get it on the rewatch. It's just still, I think the way we shot it, it's cool, but it's a little too vague, I feel. So,
I mean, the way I read it on the rewatch is it's literally all in her head.
I mean, maybe, because we do see a car drive away after okay, so here's my take on it. My take on it is Sally, probably drunk as a skunk and everything, and she imagines the man that she killed is coming for her because of the paranoia that Barry's put in her head that someone's going to be coming for him, and prepare with the gun and everything. And then the coworker who got fired and everything, the coworker who she choked out, who she ultimately got him fired too, which, I mean, the guy was sleazy still.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, Dragon. I feel like it's kind of like I'm honestly 50-50 on it, where it's like ultimately I think what it comes down to is I think it is that guy coming back and taking revenge, but I don't think it's as drastic as what is happening, and I think it's kind of like, her paranoia is kind of blending into reality. I don't know. That's my take on it.
I think you're right, but it's the question to me, you see the guy actually ramming into the side of the house because everything is still like, even when she opens the door, it's like everything's still like wrecked from like the house has been like moved a couple times. Like the guy's rammed into it a few times, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
see, that's the part that's throwing me out.
Really know, and I agree that it is probably like the one sequence that's a little out of place.
Yeah. All right, let's see. So then we have this great moment in the episode, this great cliffhanger. Barry, he is captured by Jim Moss, and we've been building to this for a while. Like, remember that we ended last season. Like, Barry was kind of like, Jim Moss was kind of looking at him, very much in control of the situation. He's shooting him that look again right now. Only now Barry's in the captured position, like Gene and poor Lon O'Neill have been in. All right.
All right, that takes us to a nice meal. So, Dragon, when this episode starts and Moss says that he chopped Barry's arms and legs off, you thought for sure that was actually the case at first, right?
I was thinking, could we have gone that far?
I honestly, the reason why I thought that was actually the case,
we weren't seeing him. We weren't seeing him, and also just we specifically built up. This is the dude in all of the Barry universe to be the most afraid of. Yes.
And so it's like, if anyone was going to go that far, it would have been him.
Yeah, that's. I was worried. I was very worried for Barry, obviously, in this scene. So you have this great interrogation here, where it's all mind games, and this is kind of cool too. Think about it. Janice Moss, in her final moments with Barry, she faced him with the truth, which again, he's kind of Barry's kryptonite. So she faced him with the truth. And Jim Moss is kind of doing that to him as well, only with a lot more kind of flourish. Putting like the dark glasses on him and like telling him like he's paralyzed. I'm going to make you see the people you care about most before you die.
Now, I got to admit, one nitpick I do have is like, I guess just for the sake of the actual plot, we can't have him fuck Barry up too badly.
Yeah, we can't have him like dismember him. Yeah.
But, like, I don't know. I was kind of expecting something a little bit more intense.
I have an explanation for this. Okay, so I think a big thing this season finally gets into that's been in the series from the very beginning to some degree, and we've never labeled it until this season. We do call it out in the next episode. I think with Barry's religious, like the religious turn that he made in the time jump, Barry is under the belief that the kind of the plot armor that he's had since the first season is God intervening. Because remember, he says, like, God doesn't want me to turn myself in because, again, everything worked out. So it's basically the whole logic of everything working out because of plot reasons has been God intervening, which is why I turned to religion after all this time.
So there's no way Gene Cousineau will shoot him if he shows up All right.
But you see what I mean, though,
Yeah, I
right?
see
I
what
mean,
you
I
mean.
think
Yeah,
we're
yeah.
finally given it a label after all this time, which is kind of heady. It's kind of
That is really cool. Yeah, I mean that's essentially like one of the big themes of season 3 was just him, just getting out of scrape after scrape. Like season 3 really built up like, oh my god, how could this not be the end of Barry?
yeah. It's like
All
yeah,
right.
there's the luck running out at the end of that season, but no, he's there's still some luck in the chamber. So yeah, we have the beach of victims there. And by the way, because I meant to mention this earlier, nice little subtle detail. His son's name is John. A part of me wished it was Denzel, like he fantasized it to be back in there, because maybe it's the best actor he could think of. Like, anyway, no.
I
You see,
literally think the reason his name is John is just because it's the most anonymous name possible.
well, no, I know why. Well, you might be right about it, T, but I think I know exactly why his name's John.
Why?
His father's name's John.
Oh, yeah, I mean, that could very much be too, yeah.
That's what
The
I'm
fact
saying.
that it happens to be a very anonymous name is probably pretty convenient.
Were there any Johns in the Bible?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
There
John
you
the
go.
Baptist.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, trifecta of Johns. Okay, so let's see. Okay. Oh, now here's the buy of the episode. Admittedly, the buy is that Jim Moss would leave him like alone, and
That is a big buy, Dragon. I'm not going to lie. For me, that's probably the biggest buy of the season.
he did luck out that he did not really do all the horrific stuff to him before he
I
admitted.
mean, I honestly think, like, given what we know about the character, it would not be out of character for him to, at the very least, like, chop off a leg or something.
Now,
or break his legs at the very least.
In defense of the escape thing, though, and I caught this on the rewatch, because the first watch I kept thinking like I missed something, and I guess they don't really, there's not really an explanation given, but I think you have to just, it's a kind of a headcanon thing. So Jim Moss, being the smart guy that he is, surely, he injected Barry with something, because Barry does pass out, not from like the cut on his hand wasn't like bleeding out, but I mean it was nasty gash, but he wasn't like to the degree where he would have like suffered from intense blood loss. I think it was just he was injected with something so it would like make him drowsy and stuff. I don't know.
Yeah.
He just kind of passed out for no reason. That's the only reason I can think of. So Jim Moss did have his kind of his bases covered there a little bit, and he did expect to be back. And he didn't expect the whole 250,000 revelation. And again, any reason of like why we haven't dismembered Barry again, I'm chalking up to act of God, literally in this case. So
sure.
Okay, so speaking of which, so Jim Moss, he is led to believe, and again, kind of that Barry way, that he kind of heard the wrong piece of information here, that $250,000 that Gene Cousineau hired Barry. He convinced Barry to kill my daughter.
Mm-hmm.
Then he shot his son. And he fled to Israel.
And this is all over the elaborate ruse that they pull on Cousineau.
Let's talk about that elaborate ruse.
So I don't, Dragon, honestly, at a certain point in the episode, I was kind of 50-50 that we were going to get a Day-Lewis cameo.
Well, I was convinced we were going to get Wahlberg. I did not. Lewis.
I was convinced we were going to get Wahlberg, too.
Here's the thing. I was convinced we were going to get Wahlberg.
I was also convinced that Wahlberg was going to end up playing Barry in the actual movie.
That's the thing. So I was expecting Wahlberg in both of those scenes, but but Daniel Day-Lewis was going to be like, okay, if HBO cashed in their chips, they were going to get Daniel Day-Lewis.
Right.
Obviously,
I'm just saying, Dragon, if any show, like celebrities in particular fucking love Barry.
Yeah.
So if any show were to pull Day-Lewis out of retirement, it would have been this show.
He doesn't even really have to act. He just has to show up.
Right, exactly.
I think this can be the Ed Asner thing from Freakazoid. Ed Asner's like, he's walked in there and he was like rehearsing one day. He's like, Ed, we just want you to do a line just like that, but I'm not acting. He's just, we know, just do it like that. It's like Daniel Day-Lewis comes in like, okay, boys, what are we doing today? He's saying like, just that, just don't act, just show up. just say hi to Henry Winkler. Just call him Gene. That's all we want you to do.
Oh my god.
Okay, yeah, all right. I was hoping to go method and everything, but just go method as yourself. Okay, just do that. What would Daniel Day-Lewis do right now? Okay.
I've been preparing for this role all my life.
Yep.
Okay, but in all seriousness, though, it is a very good bait and switch on the audience. It's such a good fake out.
Yep, so we go to the hotel room and just he's
And I
coughing.
think Wahlberg is the perfect level of like celebrity that they could realistically get if they wanted him.
I know, right? That does wish they could have gotten Wahlberg because he's cool. You know, he does stuff. Anyway, so Gene Cousineau's fate here, not the ultimate fate, which we'll get to, but his fate right now. Which I mean, this does feed into the ultimate fate of Gene Cousineau. The fact that his undoing is like, you know, the story, the fake story that, you know, like the embellished story that he laid out without leaving out the full truth, just laying out the parts that made him look best. That was his undoing. He gets
idiot, man. Fucking idiot. I love it. I love it.
Just the fact that all of that has kind of led to his undoing, where now the narrative has been kind of turned on him, and now he's the bad guy.
Mm-hmm.
It's fitting. The ego of the actor was the undoing. Okay, so
we should probably double back to the Hank stuff.
Yeah, so with the Hank stuff, Hank is in love with the foo box.
Yes.
I love him geeking out about the foo box and just being really impressed, like off screen, we're focusing on them. Like I think Isaiah was like the last one. Yes, please. Just
also, I don't think I think this was last episode. I think it was episode 6, but the big moment where Fuchs is essentially directly calling him out about Cristobal.
Yeah. So basically, you're right. Yeah, last episode we had the thing where he went to like a fancy house, they had dinner, and he basically was congratulating him on what he did to get all of Cristobal's stuff and everything. He says like, no, that didn't happen. He says, oh, come on, just admit that it happened. And Hank just kind of screws him over on the deal. Now he's at war with Fuchs.
Mm.
So now again, him being at war with Fuchs, Fuchs barely gets it done, man. In the future, Fuchs like he's cutting off the heads of all the
he is super efficient.
And then of course Hank makes a really stupid move where he and his guy show up there and they have a rocket launcher, but only one rocket.
Well, hold on. We gotta talk about the resolution to the wife storyline.
You're right. We do. Okay, so
because I, honest to God, think this might be one of it might be like a top 5 best jokes in all of Barry Dragon.
Well, remember, it's where we got the episode title too from. So the
right.
So Fuchs cut these 4 guys' heads off, and the idea is that the family, if not, was not there. They were on the compound, and they heard or saw all the horribleness that happened. We have like in this scene right before we cut to the inside during this conversation, like we have a guy still mopping up all the copious amounts of blood from this act. And then we have him on the couch, like Hank. Sorry. We have Fuchs on the couch with all of his guys, and the essentially the wife. I think she's a wife. They have the wife and stepdaughter on the other side. He's like, "I'm sorry you had to see all of that. So I'm thinking next time I have to do that sort of thing. We kind of find a way to make it more manageable. Like maybe you could step out, or we could you have like headphones or white noise machines, or you could go out for a nice meal. Like, yes, that's a good idea.
Like just these henchmen just arguing the semantics about this is just the funniest fucking thing.
Not even arguing. There's like he's asking for suggestions from the room. Like, what do you guys think? What can we do to kind of prevent this from happening in the future?
Well, I'm saying arguing the semantics of like, well, you can't exactly like know and plan for a nice meal when they get ambushed, because that's a bit of an ambush.
Exactly. Great.
But you could go into a room and watch a movie really loud, Fast and Furious.
But not Fast X.
Well, I do love that this episode came out the same weekend that Fast X came out.
Well, remember, it's 8 years later, so the real question is, how many Fast and Furious movies left do we have 8 years later?
Oh, so many more.
Because Vin Diesel's got nothing but now with Guardians.
He really doesn't, Dragon. That's the thing. He really doesn't. Like, Fast is his baby.
It's almost like that Kim Wexler line of like, my biggest client's a bank right now. It's like, so Vin, what are you doing? I mean, my most profitable gig is I'm a tree that says 3 lines.
Okay, well, to be fair, in Fast and the Furious, he doesn't really say much more than that.
That's what I said. Like his biggest,
like literally in Fast X, I'll talk about it, but most of his dialogue is some some version of like, it's all about family, son. It's all about family. It's and it really is just like self-parody at this point. Like they know exactly what they're
We
doing.
could probably just CG him in at this point. Just have, like, I mean, I know right now it's a big fear in Hollywood, but I mean, in some cases it feels like Vin Diesel would be like, okay, he's just gonna CG him in. He's gonna say the line like "family," and we're gonna move on.
Right.
Okay, so let's see. So then, so we're firing a rocket launcher and it misses completely, and then seriously, I love the direction on this shootout here, where we're in the car and we're going like all in one shot, and like Hank's like driving off, and we have Fuchs in the foreground, and like calling on the phone, like call it off, they shot my effing driver. It's like, yeah, they did. You shooting rockets. And they're coming for you next. And we see Hank just pathetically run away. All the clap that Hank has built up is now just going down the tube. But he just runs. And he's like, if his fault, you hear him falling down the hill. Oh, God, it's priceless. Okay, so Hank now, he kidnaps. He was going to kidnap Kusanao, ended up kidnapping Sally and John, who've shown up there to basically try and stop Barry from killing Kusanao.
Mm-hmm.
And so Barry comes to and he gets a phone call. Admittedly, yeah, it's convenient that he wakes up for that call.
Pretty convenient, yeah. You know what? It's kind of in we don't care.
Yeah.
It's like we're in the final stretch.
It's the penultimate episode. He was gonna wake up at something. Maybe the phone call woke him. I don't know.
Anyway. Right.
So Fuchs. So we learned that for Fuchs that he's captured him, he's kidnapped him, he's baited Barry there so he can hand him off to Fuchs and make nicey nice. So Barry is mad.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like this whole shot might be like the culmination of like angry Barry throughout the seasons. It's like it might be the most rage filled that we have ever seen him.
You got a little column A, a little column B, you put it together, you got a little AB, you know what that AB stands for? Angry Barry. Okay.
All right, episode 8. Wow.
Owen Wilson here's the last shot of the whole series should be, instead of the kid, it should be Owen Wilson reacting to this thing. Wow. That was a really good movie.
Oh my God.
Loki, get in here. Stop messing with my salad. Come in here and watch this. Okay. So seriously though, so Barry he's bought all the guns in the superstore. I love that he has trouble getting into the car because he's looking all strapped.
Well, I love the logic where it's like he doesn't want to take the time to like unload them and like take them off and then put them back on. It's like he knows that he has to immediately get out of the car with fully armed. I love that logic.
Yeah. Let's see. So we have a when Hank met Sally moment.
Yeah, and I love that this is it's kind of multiple levels because it's obviously the whole show building up to it, but like every little thing that's being said in the scene kind of has the double layer of it's just totally shattering John's entire world and everything that he has known.
Yeah, and we have this great moment between Hank and Sally too, where he says, well, let me guess, you were in a bad place, and he was the only one who could help you. I love that. That honestly, I think that's the wake up call that Sally got for the decision she makes later on after all this goes down. I think Hank's words really sunk in for her there.
Right.
But yeah, as you said completely though. John learns the truth about his parents that they both have killed people, and we see him. He's not rebuffing at it. He's not like turning away. He's not completely betrayed, at least not yet, as far as we can tell. I mean, it's against the theme of the show, which good people. We have good people making bad decisions. Or we have at the very least we have morally complex people who are deeply flawed individuals, but fundamentally we like them, or at least we can relate to them.
Mm-hmm.
So Fuchs shows up and he wants Barry's son, which is a little intimidating because you're wondering on one hand, are we going to go as far as Fuchs is going to threaten to kill this kid?
I thought for sure the son was fucking dead, man. I thought for sure this kid was dead.
But yeah, we have this huge redemptive moment for Fuchs, and I have to question how in the moment it is, or how much of it is like there was somewhat of an idea here. But I think, honestly, for me, because the episode technically starts with Fuchs in the tub, learning that Barry has a son. So my thought process is that when he learns that, that's when he makes his decision. I think him
That
learning
was kind of my thought process too. Like I was pretty much thinking that he went in with the plan to save the kid, essentially.
a subtle thing I meant to mention way back in the first episode, I'm going to mention now, is that Stephen Root has this moment of acting that just gobsmacks me and how brilliant it is. It's an understated moment where when Barry apologized to him in the prison saying, "You were right about Mr. Kusanov and the whole acting class and everything," you see Fuchs, who is so. The way Stephen Root plays this whole thing of like a man who's made up his mind and then gets cut to the solar plexus, right? To like a Ginsu knife into the solar plex, where you see his mouth kind of quiver, like the jaw kind of quivers in reaction to like he's processing what has just been said to him. And he's emotionally just so moved by what Barry said and how it's like made him question everything. The way he plays that moment is great. We don't do that to a T here, but I love that it's still in service of how Fuchs has been characterized up to this point, where Fuchs is like, I get a sense that when he sees this kid, learns that Barry has a son, he sees the kid, he thinks he's seeing Barry as a kid and is reminding him everything he loves about this guy.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Like that's what I think is happening in that moment there. So Hank and Fuchs have an amazing scene, an Emmy-worthy scene between the two. Last scene that they share together.
Oh my god, yeah. I mean, Anthony Kerrigan's last monologue just like it wraps his character up just so fucking perfectly.
And yeah, so basically, Fuchs wants honesty from Hank. You know, he wants him to admit what he did. Chris Paul offers him like a new deal. I will walk away right now and everything. Just I want you to admit that you did something bad and that you regret it. And I think a lot of this, it's a mutual thing between these two actors that they both are in the same moment with each other. Only one is ahead of it than the other guy. So it's like, him in kind of his Thanos mode right now, his Thanos Infinity War mode right now. It's like, I was beaten until I accepted who I was. I'm not the tough talking soldier. I'm just the guy who manipulates people. I'm a man with no heart.
Mm-hmm.
And he basically admits it's acceptance that Fuchs has right now, and everyone else around him, like Barry and Hank and all these characters and Sally, they haven't accepted their fates. They're in denial of their fates, at least for the most part. Sally had an acceptance, but she's kind of like doubling back, and maybe I don't have to accept this like I thought I had to. Anyway, so just Anthony Kerrigan, as you said, he's just breaking down as he admits, like, like I didn't want to do it, I just it feels horrible about it.
Yeah, this is a character that was pretty much primarily designed to be like the comic relief side of the show.
Yeah.
And ultimately, I think this is probably the most tear-jerking moment in the whole finale, I think.
I mean, Hank's whole thing as a character from start to finish has been he was perceived as soft when in reality, that was something we liked about him. Like, we kind of wonder, like, can we have like criminal character who can have a soft side to him, and that makes him more interesting. We kind of see that fully play out here, where he's toughened up, and in toughening up, he's kind of killed his heart in Cristobal, and we're seeing just the consequence of that. And it's sad.
Mm-hmm.
And it also, Fuchs kind of lays out the whole like being someone else, the fact that you'd be someone else, so you don't have to face your choices, which is the thesis statement of the whole series. All right, so then they have a shootout here where, again, Hank's trying to save the kid. It's a shame that Fuchs doesn't just say, I don't want to kill that kid, because that probably would have saved Hank's life right now.
Right.
So Hank's trying to do something good that Fuchs is like, bro, in him here, but they end up killing each other in a really well staged way, really, in terms of our whatever we're visualizing and directing this, because you have grenades going off and it's a shootout and everything's crazy. And again, Barry doesn't fire a single shot.
No, I mean he's literally late to the party.
And he shows up and he has this wonderful silent acknowledgement, with Fuchs of like he's made peace with him as his son runs back.
I almost feel like that's got to be a mirror of Breaking Bad, and if it is, I don't discount it at all. I think it's a good kind of like mirror image. I
mean, you're right. It is it's indicative of Breaking Bad. But I think it's a mirror image of like that flashback we had in episode 2 with him and his father, how he met Fuchs, where it's it's the two men and the boy, where it's like the two friends and the
sure that too, yeah.
And Fuchs kind of being facilitating this, I maybe. All right, so let's see. So after all this said and done, Barry has a moment of change. He refuses to turn himself in because, again, it's the fourth.
1 second, I'm sorry. Let's double back really quick because I need to acknowledge the Anthony Kerrigan's actual death scene with the hands.
Yeah, so this on the rewatch really got me. The Cristobal statue is bullet ridden like he in real life was, and that's the
Hmm.
last thing that Hank sees. He has to hold his hand.
Yeah, so great kind of I mean, just Hank as a character, man. It's like that. Just goddamn, just so well written. We could just keep going on him.
Started as a henchman, dies as a gangster. So,
So it's at this point in the episode where I was very satisfied with where we left things off with Barry and Fuchs, but at the same time, like you were saying, when Sally proposes that Barry turn himself in, Dragon, I was really worried. I did not want that to be the end. I really did not want that to be the end point. Not just because of the Better Call Saul thing, but the Better Call Saul thing definitely plays into it. But just I kind of feel like with the whole religious thing and him atoning for his sins and everything, that would almost be him getting off too easy. What do you think?
I mean, I I agree. I knew something was coming, and I had a feeling he wasn't going to turn himself in. I knew, at the very least, he wasn't going to be able to get away with it. And I'm imagining if Fuchs wasn't going to kill him, I was wondering how exactly it was going to go down until we went to Kusanow's house, and we kind of saw the pieces kind of coming there. I had a feeling that it was going to go down the way it went down once we were finally there. But just the fact that I love that Barry refusing to turn himself in because he's calling out the conceit of the show that Barry has this kind of this luck of the plot armor of the universe shining down upon him here, which he thinks is God, he thinks is the Lord, which may have been, I don't know. We
I
don't
mean,
know.
it really does make kind of like recontextualize the whole series in a
Yeah,
way.
I love that so much.
Mhm.
Especially on the rewatch, we're really daunting. Like it's been there since for the whole time. And I ultimately Barry's fate, the fact that returning to L.A. was his doom. You know, that was his doom. Like he didn't move on from it. He had to go back, and again, because of the fear of how he'd be perceived, because he never acknowledged and full on faced. Like Barry's. Sorry, let me phrase it like this. Barry's critical weakness, and the critical weakness between Barry and Gene Cousineau is providing full context because Gene's presenting the hero, the version of the story in which he's the hero, and Barry is presenting the story in which all the dark stuff's left out.
Mhm.
Because of that, they're not presenting the full story as it lies, and the Barry show in total is about. It's just basically, I mean, with the title itself, this is me reading in the thing, so go with me on it. You look at the title, just Barry. The show's just called Barry. It's a very bland, very straightforward title. It's basically it's a warts and all title. It's Barry. Because of that, it's a very honest, very real depiction of a character, and we're seeing all these layers and everything to it without just like it's not the sensationalized. It's not Barry the killer, or Barry the actor. It's just Barry.
Right,
Who is
right.
it's a warts and all showing of this guy and all the things that go into the decisions that we make and the flaws and all. I mean, we like this guy, but he's got issues, and Barry returning to LA is like him, having to kind of like confront the issues and where it all started with Gene Cousineau. So he ends up at Gene Cousineau's place in finding his family and finding his get out of jail free card ethically. His happy ending. He's literally in pursuit of his Hollywood ending, which has evaded him, which has kind of left him because of the choices he's made. And here's a big question: do you think Gene was about to kill himself before the scene
I
started?
think so. Yeah.
So this thing, we have Gene with Rip Torn's gun. Tom's his agent's leaving him, which honestly is like the sign for most actors. Well, that's the end.
And this is an agent, man. Like this again, let's just give another round of applause to this guy. Like seriously, the most loyal agent ever. Like Hollywood agents are kind of known for being opportunistic.
Mm-hmm.
This guy just stuck things out with Gene like he was a brother, man.
Now, to be fair, he was leaving him during the scene, but like he came with the whole I broke the Vitamix and he had to like packed a bag and he was leaving him. But it was
Oh,
towards
I
the
get
end.
that, but I'm just saying throughout the course of the season.
You're right, though. Yes. So again, I love bringing full circle with the gun that ruined Gene Cousineau's career. The Rip Torn gave him with the Full House thing, and he's about to potentially kill himself. And Barry walks in, and Melamed makes a plea to Barry. And again, this guy is such a good actor. He actually kind of convinces Barry to turn himself in.
And then I love how subversive this moment is, where it's like it first when Barry's like, all right, call the police, I'm gonna turn myself in. For a second, Dragon, I was like, no, that's not the ending I want. And then bam.
You know why we can't do that ending, Tiki?
Why?
It's because we already started the season with him in prison. We can't just do that again.
Exactly. Yeah.
What are we gonna say? Okay, so it's pretty much as bad as it was already. It's just more
right. So yeah, and just like holy crap, just that last shot of Barry just dead is just great. Again, like wonderful compositions of death in this episode.
But I was just jaw dropped, and this is how they did it perfectly and separated from all the other times we've done stuff like this in TV shows. If you're gonna kill off a character, it's the way to do it. Just the fact that shot in the shoulders, we have the shock value, and then just him saying the title of the episode, wow, and then bam, right to the head, like, God, that's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how we did. And the fact that, oh God, we still have minutes left in this episode. Like, what is, oh God, it's like 10 minutes or so left in this episode.
Yep, just about enough time for a Damien Chazelle style flash forward ending, Dragon.
So, more star-studded cast here. Jaden Martell, the kid from Defending Jacob and Knives Out and all sorts of stuff. He plays the grown-up John.
Mm-hmm.
And he's watching the biopic that.
Well, really quick, I do want to say I really do like how the place that Sally does end up. I love the fact that she was able to turn her life around with John and actually become a supportive mother. From what we see, that actually, like, it's one of the very few feel good qualities of this whole story. Because keep in mind, like, I think we didn't mention this, but she literally, like, fucking gives her son alcohol to put him to sleep.
God.
Yeah, so,
she did.
Like, it's just great to see her in a good place. I'm assuming with the high school acting that she's not being narcissistic about it. I assume that she's a nice teacher. So it's just ultimately the wrap up with Sally, it's just a nice resolution. It's like, I'm glad that at least one character got a happy ending, because at the very least, like, I feel like literally everyone else in the show is either dead. Gene Cousineau just got completely royally fucked through and through, which we'll talk about. And Fuchs at the very best is just kind of like, like he said, he's just like, he realizes that he's a shitty person and he's just kind of empty inside. It's like there's not really much upside to Fuchs. So it's like Sally's the one character that gets a happy ending.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, she's kind of found kind of a balance of what she was looking for the whole time,
Mm-hmm.
All right, so the boy, so John, he goes over to a friend's house and he watches the biopic on Barry Berkman.
And this is just like a fucking genius way to end this show, man, and it's so good. And I think that this is going to just make this show age like fine wine, the way that this ending just recontextualizes everything.
Yeah, so I remember always joking that the potential end of Barry is that he would fail upward in Hollywood to the point where he would get an award of some kind, like an Emmy or something. Maybe not the Oscar, but he would get something. That was back when I thought we were going to get 5 seasons, mind you, though.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, so the fact that in the end of the day we make a hero out of Barry, again, we the audience know the messy details, but the viewing audience does not.
Yeah, it's just tricky legacies.
But what's also great too is there's a bit of a commentary on Hollywood right now where Gene Cousineau, the idea is he came back genuinely after being in Israel and everything. He did kind of like find himself, and he was trying to do a moral thing by not having, a killer idealized.
But ultimately, I feel like Gene Cousineau is probably the most tragic character in this whole show. Like, he is just a complete innocent in all this that just got completely fucked over.
I mean, that's the thing is the crucial mistake that he made is that he given the chance, like, hey, Mark Wahlberg could be like Mark Wahlberg and Daniel Day-Lewis. Sorry, let me phrase it more accurately. Daniel Day-Lewis could play you in a movie.
Uh-huh.
That's what he sold his soul for, Daniel
right,
sold
exactly.
it for
exactly.
Daniel Day-Lewis put Gene Cousineau in prison. And Mark Wahlberg.
Well, you're just going to have to tell Daniel to stay retired.
That's the thing, though. So at the end of the day, though, again, it's kind of a commentary on Hollywood that we are going to, at the end of the day, like it or not, Barry, and again, it's kind of a call out of the series too, is that we love this Barry character because we really
Oh,
got
it's
to know what
very
we
much a
saw.
call out to the series. It's very much a call out to the people, like, the people who would like blast Skylar White just just on the basis of like, well, she's not letting Walt be a badass. Walt's such a badass. It's very much calling out those types of people.
Yeah, and it's just kind of a thing of like we kind of we're sensationalizing killers and stuff in media these days, and at the end of the day, we kind of did that here with Barry, but like we're not doing it without knowing.
You think Dahmer had anything to do with the mindset that Bill Hader was in?
I mean, they wrote it before Dahmer premiered, so I
Did
don't
they?
think it was the case. But I don't know if you would like an inside track on Dahmer.
I mean, even so, though, I love how it's like we really like.
I mean, it's like we did like the Bundy movie. It's been around before Dahmer, so because I think it's based on just.
But I mean, but what I love about this is like it's not even contextualizing Barry as like a killer with a heart of gold. It's legitimately contextualizing him as like a tragic hero.
Yeah, which ultimately is not entirely accurate, but still, like we love it. It's the fact that we like a complex person, we love, but we're not presenting just as the victim, we're presenting as like the hapless kind of like, yeah.
Two quick silly notes on the casting here.
Mm-hmm.
Number one, the guy who plays Barry is inexplicably named Jim Cummings.
But get out of here, really?
I'm not kidding.
Huh.
And then also, tell me that the guy that they got for Kusanov didn't bear a resemblance to Martin Cove.
I mean, I didn't really get that. The English accent really didn't make me.
I mean, the English accent definitely, like, once I heard the English accent, I was like, okay, that's definitely not him. But when I first saw him,
I mean, I didn't really get that. So not.
All right, fair enough.
Okay, regardless of the fact that we kind of like Barry at the end of the day is the hero of his own story, and we show that. So in a sense, Barry got what he wanted. That his son has a positive view of him despite knowing the truth. So the point is, the son is like the audience, that the son knows. So at least knows there's a messiness there. We've not not all the grisly details that Barry took to the grave with him. But on the flip side, he's getting a positive look at like what happened to his father there. And then I like this. Barry's looking for a Hollywood ending. The true Hollywood ending of a true crime story of sorts is that it's the biopic text. He gets the biopic text at the end.
Yes, the biopic text is the actual end of the show.
I love that so much. I love that we get the biopic text. It just made like made the show all the more real, Tiki. It's the fact that we get biopic text that says Gene Kusanov serving life for the two murders, which is really sad, given he had nothing to do with Janice's murder. And that Barry is in Arlington, that's nice. Barry, at the end of the day, Barry again was a well-intended Marine, but again, he did do something kind of dark.
Buried with full honors.
That's what I'm saying. Is the fact that I love that it symbolizes showing that it's twisted and flawed, but still we were rooting for this guy. So you wanted a happy ending, but you still know what went wrong there.
I honestly think this might be the best case scenario for him. Like, this is honestly maybe what Walter White was envisioning with the whole the perfect moment that I should have died. You know
exactly. What I mean? Yeah, for sure.
Like, I honestly don't think that if it went down any other way than Gene killing him, it would have been a very different story.
Yeah.
So that's fascinating.
Yep.
All right. So, I mean, final thoughts on just the series as a whole, man. I really do feel like it took a minute for the show to fully establish its identity. I think season one, of course, like the back half of season one is brilliant. Like it really does get going. I feel like the first couple episodes, it's, it takes a while to build up the characters, build up exactly what the show is. But man, like once we get going on it, like all three other seasons are just pedal to the metal the whole way through. The show just has such a great mix of the satire, the drama. It's got a lot of genuine horror elements to it as well. It's just a great kind of like grab bag and hodgepodge of different genres. But most importantly, with that ending in mind, Dragon, I just think this show is just gonna age so well. It's just like just a razor sharp satire of LA culture and the Hollywood industry, and it might even go down as a little bit of a time capsule in a way. And I'm fascinated to see the legacy of this show as it goes on. I'm genuinely fascinated to see how this show ages in like 10 years and what's going to hold up, what's going to feel like, oh man, Barry really called that. I don't know. I feel like this show's going to have a really long shelf life.
Yeah, I think that this Barry show is just something really special. Is the fact that Bill Hader and Alec Berg, they really did something special. I don't think anyone really expected from. I think just given the way it goes sometimes, I think people were probably looking at this and thinking, okay, maybe Barry will last one season, if they're lucky, 2 seasons tops.
I genuinely, like when I first heard about it, all I could think of was it sounded like a Dexter ripoff.
Exactly. I mean, that was essentially how we marketed it. It was basically like, hey, it's Dexter, but we have a comedian.
And this show is like so. I mean, with all due respect to season 4 is great. But Dragon, I think you can agree that probably Barry seasons 2, 3, and 4 blow season 4 of Dexter almost out of the water.
Well, I mean, it's what you saying? So you're saying blow season 4 of Dexter out of the water?
I'm saying just like episode by episode, like from a consistent, like, because even in season 4, there were problem spots and problem characters.
That's what I'm saying. We're talking consistency. It's a little unfair. Let me put it this way: I don't think Barry had a bad episode, so that's I think it's top marks.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of hard to, it's kind of like a sure, probably. Regardless, though, yeah, that's the thing. Like, the show was initially sold as like, hey, Dexter. And again, you could kind of see some parallels. It basically, what if Dexter had kind of a comedic edge to it, but, a more comedic edge to it.
But in a way, it's also darker than Dexter ever was. Again, it's that great balancing act.
That's what I'm saying. I don't think no one expected the show to have the longevity that it did and to be as good as it was, or at the very least, get the respect that it did that did herald, and the fact that everyone was watching things being completely blown away by it. And it's absolutely warranted. And again, I love that we again, it's the thing of like why Better Call Saul worked the way it did. We kind of and Breaking Bad. It's like we took these comedic actors and we gave them range to show that they can do more than just the comedy we recognize them for.
Mm-hmm.
Like Mr. Show's Bob Odenkirk's more than Mr. Show, and Bryan Cranston's more than Hal from Malcolm in the Middle.
Right, exactly.
And Bill Hader's more than Mr. SNL. You can look at look at what he can do. Look at the Ranger, and it's also, I think, a testament to good storytelling. Look what we can do if we have like a really good idea and we're given like the breath to explore it, and we did, and it turned out wonderfully.
And then, like you said, also just like the potential of Bill Hader as a creator and as a director moving forward is just like it feels like a new Jordan Peele or something. It really feels exciting.
And what's also I think helped Barry too, the fact that Barry is kind of like was outside the bubble of streaming. It was like one of those last ditch kind of like HBO, like a true blue HBO show. In terms of like HBO of course was heralded, like for breaking new ground and like what we can do and just kind of the serialized storytelling, with Sopranos and everything, and looking at all sorts of ways in which we've done that in the past. And it's HBO built the house is built in Sopranos essentially, in The Wire.
Yeah, so, I feel like Succession is honestly like the more traditional HBO show.
Yeah, you're right, but yeah,
it's kind of like a refreshing. Like I love both of them. But when all is said is done, I mean, I love Succession. I love how it ended, like, Team Tom all the way. But, when all is said and done, though, with Barry, I think, I really do think it's like that refreshing kind of breath of fresh air. It's like the Tarantino compared to a Spielberg or something. Both are great, but, there's just something fresh and exciting about Barry.
Yeah, I'm just saying it's the fact that again it's kind of going back to like the days of HBO being really creator driven, like vision or having a vision that's very much being serviced right now. Like we know what we want to do for this story, let us explore it, and then they did, and then at the end it's of great quality.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And also, just in closing, just for the series as a whole, there, it's again the fact that we gave all these great actors as well, many of them steeped in comedy, so much opportunity to shine and go in the dramatic ways. Stephen Root, Henry Winkler, You know,
Yeah,
and
Henry Winkler. I mean, yeah, definitely a second wind of his career for
I
sure.
mean, you got to admit, Tiki. Anyone who wasn't sure about the show, they watched almost everyone watched the show for Henry Winkler, Tiki. So that's like Henry Winkler was like the backup. He was Plan B in case anyone wasn't just watching for Bill Hader. You know, they were showing up for the Fonz is in this. He's got to come back. He's going to be on a show. Like heck yeah.
And then you throw in Victor Zaz and just forget about
Yeah,
it.
Anthony. That's what I'm saying. Anthony Kerrigan as well. Like, I'm just yeah. So again, Barry, something special. It's lightning in a bottle, kids. I don't know if we're gonna get more of it, but we sure need it more than ever right
Dragon,
now.
honestly, with Succession and Barry ending on the same night, and with the looming writer's strike and all these issues of AI and stuff.
I mean, I'm just gonna throw out some other like Marvel's Mrs. Maisel had an amazing last season, so that's another. Like all these great shows are coming to an end and for a complete finality. So you know we're
And
losing.
it truly does feel like the end of the golden age of television. And I'm worried about it going forward, Dragon. I
Yeah,
really am.
we're in
Let's just
trouble.
say, like, I am glad that I have a good backlog of shows to get to, and you know I do,
Oh
because I'm
yeah.
going to be eating well in that regard with however long this damn writer's strike lasts. But I'm not going to lie, Dragon, that is one thing that made last night, between Succession and Barry very bittersweet, was that it truly did feel like the end of an era, and we we really don't know when we're going to get any sort of quality creative driven content again. It's kind of a scary thought.
Two things, not just an end of an era, but an era that you and I, at the very least, with the case of Barry, we both were there from start to finish for. And on the
Mm-hmm.
flip side, the last time we had a writer's strike and they had like the birth of an excellent show was Breaking Bad. Just to show you how long it's been since like the last time we I know that was that's more. This is more at the end of that's like this is as this is ending, the writer's strike's getting started. Breaking Bad's at start. We're having the writer's strike and we're restructuring from there. It's just kind of heady how we're kind of going when the state of television right now and
It
how the
is.
writer's strike kind of like the writer's strike is this weird thing where it brings out some of the best television and also puts it on hold. So it's very frustrating.
I mean, it's like I stand with the Writers Guild 100%, but at the same time, it's like it literally felt like we were just getting back into the swing of things post COVID.
But anyway, the end on happier notes. Just again, just Bill Hader, Albert, you guys did something really special here. Thank you for entertaining us for 4 years with some just beautiful storytelling, very well shot episodes and performances that they're gonna last us a long time.
That's us.